Welcome back, everyone. This is Alex Himes with The Ruckus. I'd like to welcome everyone back in. This is The Ruckus. I'd like to start off the show today by congratulating the Boston Red Sox on their amazing season. Unfortunately, it had to come to an abrupt end at the hands of the Astros, but the Yankees still suck. I hope the Yankees lose. I'm going to start today's show off with America's favorite racist, Mike Ditka. Yes, Mike Ditka, previous coach of the Chicago Bears, the man that everyone reveres, the guy that was in Kicking and Screaming alongside Will Ferrell, playing one of the most funny coaches I've ever seen. That man, Mike Ditka. I myself did not know Mike Ditka's past or the comments that have been made about him regarding that he's been the type of guy to not care about his players. He's been very racist. The other day, he came onto a radio show to discuss current topics in the NFL, and they finally got to the most controversial topic right now in sports, the national anthem protests. I'll let you listen to what Ditka had to say for himself.
If you want to protest or whatever you want to protest, you got a right to do that. But I think you're a professional athlete. You have an obligation to the game. I think you have to respect the game. That's what I think is the most important thing. I don't see a lot of respect for the game. I just see respect for their own individual opinions. Opinions are like noses. We all have one. Some are good, some are bad. So when I look at the whole thing, I'm not condemning anybody or criticizing anybody. Respect the game, play the game. When you want to protest when the game's over, protest whatever other way you want to. Football has been so good to these guys. It's been so good to me. Enjoy it. Have fun with it. I don't think it's the stage for protest. I'm sorry. A lot of people disagree with that, but that's my take on it.
Coach, if you were coaching the Bears or the Saints or any other team in the National Football League, would it be your policy that either you stand for the national anthem or you don't play?
Yes. I don't care who you are, how much money you make. If you don't respect our country, then you shouldn't be in this country playing football. Go to another country and play football. If you had to go somewhere else and try to play the sport, you wouldn't have a job. So that would be my take. If you can't respect the flag and the country, then you don't respect what this is all about. So I would say adios.
And for those who want social justice and for those who look back at the lives of Muhammad Ali and Jesse Owens and John Carlos and Tommy Smith, your response would be?
I don't know what social injustices have been. Muhammad Ali rose to the top. Jesse Owens is one of the classiest individuals that ever lived. I mean, you can say, are you talking everything is based on color? I don't see it. I don't see it that way. I think that you have to be colorblind in this country. You got to look at a person for what he is and what he stands for and how he produces, not by the color of his skin. That has never had anything to do with anything. But all of a sudden, it's become a big deal now about oppression. There has been no oppression in the last 100 years that I know of. Now, maybe I'm not watching it as carefully as other people. I think the opportunity is there for everybody. Race, religion, creed, color, the stage for this. If you want to protest or whatever you want to protest, you got a right to do that. But I think you're a professional athlete.
Well, there you have it. Those are the comments from Mike Ditka, ex-Bears coach, ex-Super Bowl champion. For myself, I find this one surprising just because I wouldn't necessarily take Mike Ditka, or I wouldn't expect a coach to come out and have comments like this. I get that people are against the protest for their reasons, but at least have your facts or whatever you're going to try and protest correct. It doesn't sound like Mike Ditka is really aware of what's going on with American history. I mean, last 100 years, it seems like we're finally getting to see this old school mentality that Mike Ditka has, which we've all been kind of aware of, noting that, his roughness towards players. This is the mindset of our grandparents' generation and those of previous generations as well, although it's not everyone's grandparents' generation, it's just the phrase that I'm using. All of this paints a terrible picture of Mike Ditka. He's been documented as a quote-unquote racist before, and for not caring about his players, and it seems like in this case, we're finally getting to see it up close and personal, and it also just paints a big picture of what's going on in the NFL community, showing the divide on where everyone stands with the anthem protests as well as player rights. But right now we got to talk about another big topic with Cam Newton, and that is the comments that he made toward a reporter. Last week I discussed with you guys how Cam Newton made a comment to a reporter after she asked a question about running routes during an interview. Cam said, "It's funny to hear a woman talk about routes," and then he laughed and snickered and then continued to answer the questions. The story got bigger when there was no apology made, but yet people from the Panthers organization were saying that they reached out and both parties had come together. They formed a solution, yada, yada, yada. Well, and then I told you that Jordan, the reporter herself, came out and actually stated that none of that was true. It was all false. And here we are at a stalemate. Well, a week later, actually not even a week later, a couple days later, Cam Newton posted on Twitter a video of him sitting down and apologizing for the situation, and I want to play that for you in full.
After careful thought, I understand that my word choice was extremely degrading and disrespectful to women. And to be honest, that was not my intentions. And if you are a person who took offense to what I said, I sincerely apologize to you. I'm a man who tries to be a positive role model in my community and tries to use my platform to inspire others. And I take ownership to everything that comes with that. And what I did was extremely unacceptable. I'm a father to two beautiful daughters, and at their age I try to instill in them that they can do and be anything that they want to be. And the fact that during this whole process I've already lost sponsors and countless fans, I realized that the joke is really on me. And I've learned a valuable lesson from this. And to the young people who see this, I hope that you learn something from this as well. Don't be like me, be better than me. And to the reporters, to the journalists, to the moms, super moms, to the daughters, the sisters, and the women all around the world, I sincerely apologize and hope that you can find the kindness in your heart to forgive me. Thank you.
He posted this on Twitter. Most people gave him an issue because he posted this on Twitter as opposed to taking this directly to the media and answering questions to reporters, especially Jordan herself. I commend Cam for doing this. One, it takes a lot of guts to post a video like that, to admit you're wrong, to state to everyone, don't be like me, be better than me. What he said was inappropriate, yes, but I think us as both the media and fans of the sport must understand that this is not generally Cam's attitude. He stated he has two daughters, he has a loving wife, all the super moms, everything. He covered all his bases in this apology. And I think at this point, from myself personally, I forgive Cam. And even if I don't forgive Cam, and what my opinion says, the public should forgive Cam at this point, because that is not his personality. That's not who he is. He stated himself, I've lost a couple sponsors already, including the biggest one being Gatorade, who actually filed a formal response to Cam stating why they're dropping him. We're at this point where it's already become a forgotten topic. I think is a good thing personally, both for Cam, the NFL, and everything else going on. Everything else going on with the NFL regarding the anthem protests and all these player injuries, which are starting to creep up out of nowhere, are really starting to take the place of news like this. And although it's important that we acknowledge what Cam said, he admitted that he is wrong. He said he was sorry. He's on to bigger and better things. And I think us as the NFL community and fans and everyone involved should take that as an apology, and we should move on. So we're jumping right into the next big topic. The 5-year, $148 million deal by Joel Embiid of the Philadelphia 76ers is now going to be one of the richest men in the NBA after only playing 31 games in the span of 2 seasons. Philadelphia has managed to find their next Andrew Bynum. And yes, I'm going to make that player comparison. And it doesn't make sense to me in some aspects. I love Joel Embiid. I follow him on social media. I've followed this guy's story all the way back to Luke and Bahamute, finding him in the draft camps. If I'm a GM, I'm literally just focused on the injuries. This man has only played 31 games in 2 seasons. Yes, he's already playing well. Yesterday, he had 22 points in like 17 minutes, or in the first half, I forget what it was. He's playing well. He looks like the next Hakeem Olajuwon, the next big name in the NBA. He's what Dwight Howard was years ago with the potential, and now we're seeing that potential come to fruition and turning into an all-around, well-rounded player. This man averaged 20.2 points per game, 36.7% behind the arc, 46.6% for regular field goals, 7.8 in rebounds, 2.1 assists, and 2.5 blocks. Those are amazing numbers for a guy, especially Embiid. I can't begin to tell you how much hype I had around him. When he first came out of Kansas, I wanted the Celtics to get him. I was hoping that they would have got him, and unfortunately that same year, it was the Riggin for Wiggins draft, and we ended ended up with the 6th slot, but we do appreciate Marcus Smart to risk $146.5 million on Embiid, and it's apparently worth up to $178 million if Embiid stays healthy with all the incentives. I don't know. I think it's a good deal. The 76ers were smart with how they structured this contract, and they put a bunch of clauses in there stating that if he gets injured up to long term, it protects their salary cap and whatnot. Depending upon how that works out with the money, they've clearly felt it was worth investing this much in him, and the talent is there, don't get me wrong, but being that injury prone, it has me worried, especially at such a young career with leg problems on a 7-footer who's super athletic, durable, and does everything. So your chances of getting more injuries are very high. I could just be crazy and paranoid at the fact that Embiid's on the court again making that much money, and you're putting that much money in him, and he could get injured. But at the same time, he is worth it. He is the 3rd overall pick from 2014, and in those 31 games, he averaged those statistics and should have been theoretically Rookie of the Year instead of Malcolm Brogdon. Although, I will give my commends to Malcolm Brogdon because he did deserve it. He put in all that work, and he's a very good player. And especially if you're a 2nd-round draft pick, that is a success story. I love it. I loved seeing him get that. Now, if Philadelphia gets screwed in this deal, you already know what I'm going to say. That process was not supposed to be trusted. They should have kept Sam Hinkie around. They should have done everything else that they could have. But where they stand now, they're in a very good position to end up coming out on top of this deal. So I'm rooting for Philadelphia, and hopefully that they do, because that's a lot of money to invest in a big risk. That's a lot of money. Jets suck. Yankees suck. Mets suck. Bills suck. Giants suck. Rangers suck. Nets suck. Finally got that Family Guy sit down right. Odell now has a season-ending fractured ankle, and thankfully he had successful surgery for that. And I'll admit, the first thing I thought was, I'm so sorry for Odell, but I am laughing so hard at every fantasy owner. You talk about how this man's going to get you so many points, hyped him up, highest paid player. Well,
where's your highest paid player now, son?
But Von Miller stated that he should be the highest paid player in the NFL. And he himself has stated that. You want to be the highest paid player in the NFL? Okay, well, where's the proof? They were 0-4 before your injury, now 0-5. Granted, they lost 4 of their wide receivers, but he does not deserve that money. No, you are crazy. You think you deserve more money than Tom Brady. Tom Brady is keeping the Patriots at 3-2 right now. There are 10 players I can name ahead of you that deserve more money than you. Although you are an offensive phenom, you haven't won since being on that damn boat wearing Timberlands over the summer. You're 0-7 or 0-8 since then. There's a lot of talent with Odell Beckham Jr., and he's going to be a very good football player, and I bet he'll come back and have a great season. But you do not deserve to be the highest paid player in the NFL. Last week, we had Jemele Hill come up on this show because I was discussing the tweets between her, President Trump, discussing how he is a bigot, racist, how he wouldn't have gotten in office because of X, Y, and Z, and how ESPN responded to this. They stated that you do not represent ESPN as a company as a whole, and you got to know that you can't do that as a public figure on your social media page. She apologized, and we think it's all done. She was on thin ice, and now she's suspended. In a certain response to certain NFL owners demanding standing during the national anthem, Jerry Jones, Miami Dolphins owner, Hill took to Twitter to respond with, if you strongly reject what Jerry Jones said, the key is his advertisers. Don't place the burden squarely on the players. She continued with, Jerry Jones also has created a problem for his players, specifically the black ones. If they don't kneel, some will see them as sellouts. If fans really are that upset about JJ and Stephen Ross have done, don't call the players sellouts, but you're watching every Sunday. It sounds like Jemele Hill immediately is telling people to stop going to games, stop watching games. We get it. You're telling people and you're advising people to stop watching a product or stop buying a product. She followed this up by saying she's not trying to tell people what to do and whatnot, but no matter how you say it, the connotation is there. You don't want people supporting Jerry Jones or Stephen Ross's products, and you're trying to convince them not to do so, even if you state to the people online that you're not trying to do that. We're not dumb. ESPN responded with, Jemele Hill has been suspended for 2 weeks for a second violation of our social media guidelines. She previously acknowledged letting her colleagues and company down with an impulsive tweet. In the aftermath, all employees were reminded how an individual tweets may reflect negatively on ESPN, and that such action would have consequences. Hence, this decision. Michael Smith started the show yesterday with a very powerful opening message, and I am paraphrasing here because I don't remember it word for word. You're here, I'm here, we know what's going on behind the scenes, let's move on and get to news. I love the way he handled it. I respect ESPN as a business for trying to maintain a company image, and I understand what they're doing. I respect even more so what Jemele Hill is doing, and I've said this before on the show. Although I might not be her biggest fan, unfortunately, she did it on a public page where she is part of a brand, which is ESPN. ESPN. You don't see most other athletes doing the same thing. You don't see other reporters doing the same thing. Unfortunately for Hill, she's suspended for 2 weeks, and I think it's important for everyone who is listening to the show, everyone who is a fan of the NFL, and anyone who is a fan of sports in general, take note of what's going on with her situation, because she is another representation of what is going on in the NFL. Someone's trying to stand up for rights and making a point and a message. Unfortunately, the business side of thing always takes over. We are run by money. This is an economy dominated by money, and anytime you threaten someone's bottom dollar, they're going to extinguish the threat. We'll see how that turns out. My last topic of the day, ESPN's wild rankings. So ESPN managed to come out with another wild, absurd article discussing how and who and ranking where these teams can line up in beating the Warriors and being potential opponents to take down the Warriors. So I want to give you a couple of the notable parts of it. It seemed like it was West heavy for the first 15 teams. And why do I say first 15? The Boston Celtics landed at 16th. 16th in the NBA out of the other teams, the other organizations in the NBA. They think the Celtics have the 16th best chance. They claim the C's have a 26.9% chance of beating the Warriors on a quote-unquote neutral court. What type of BS is this? I mean, we're going to get back to the main argument that you hear every athlete, every sports reporter make about the guys doing analytics. Numbers don't mean diddly squat. You can have the analytics on the best players on the planet and it still won't amount for a championship. It's happened before. Analytics plus the eye test. You got to remember, the eyes are what tell you a lot. You can't mathematically equate players' heart and motor. It's the eye test. Talent can be seen through that. And I'm looking at this Celtics team and I've been watching their preseason games, albeit preseason. They've looked good. They've looked a lot better than some of the other teams listed. Milwaukee at number 5, Miami at 10. Are you crazy? Who did Miami pick up this summer? Kelly Olynyk. Yeah, that's really going to make a big difference in beating the Warriors. The Bucks, don't get me wrong, I love Giannis and that whole core. They're not better than the Celtics. You're telling me a team that is going to be lower in ranking and seeding in the East than the Celtics, who are projected to be number 1 or 2, have a better chance of beating the Warriors? No. You guys don't know what you're talking about. I'm done with ESPN and their ridiculous rankings. Like, where do you get these? Do you pull these out of your butt and wonder, like, oh, they look good, let's put that in there? They're claiming Golden State will outscore the C's by 7.5 points per 100 possessions. Golden State just has more firepower. That's the truth. The defense? I think the Celtics might have a little better representation on defense than the Warriors. One of my favorite parts of this is at the very bottom, they have a suggested trade section. We've been talking about for a while now how Danny Ainge has coveted Anthony Davis, the Brat. The potential of potentially getting him is getting better and better as seasons go by, and also the fact that the Celtics continue to stockpile draft picks like it's nobody's business. Well, the suggested trade for them was Anthony Davis for Jason Tatum, Marcus Morris, Aaron Baines, and 2 draft picks, assuming those 2 draft picks from the article was stating that it was the Laker pick, which is going to be probably 2 through 5 this year, and another lottery pick bound in the next couple of years. I like the idea of getting Anthony Davis, and I will admit, I've been potentially harsh on Anthony Davis as of recently because I've said, he hasn't played a full injury-free season yet, yada, yada, yada. So anyone that hasn't played a full season, I'm a little skeptical about. To be fair, he is still one of the top 5 players in the NBA, period. I'll pull the trigger, yeah, I'll admit it. I'll pull the trigger on that trade. Do I see it happening? No, it just doesn't seem viable. I don't think the Pelicans really want to move Davis at all, and if they're forced to move Davis, they're going to move him sooner rather than later. If the whole Cousins-Davis experiment doesn't work, they'll pick between the two, probably pick Cousins, only because they've had Davis longer, and he probably want to get out of there sooner, i.e. Chris Paul, and they'll move on with it. Another team I want to note is the Thunder. They have the Thunder ranked at 8th after the Spurs, the Rockets, I was about to say the Warriors, and after the Bucks. They have the Bucks ranked higher than the Thunder. Even though the Thunder added Melo and Paul George, they're giving them a 34% chance to beat the Dubs, and they're going to be outscored by 5 points per 100 possessions. They picked up Paul George and Carmelo Anthony. There is not a chance the Warriors are going to outscore the Thunder by 5 points. I don't care what your analytics team tells you. They have not played together yet. This team is gelling, and if you watch during the preseason basketball, you see them gelling more and more as time goes by. I think they're definitely in top 5 to potentially beat the Warriors, and I think the same for the Celtics. The rest of the list kind of falls down and trickles down into what you'd normally see. The only other surprises I think that I remember were the Rockets being number 2, and although I know why people like the Rockets to be number 2 in that list, I want to see the team pan out before I actually put that much time and invest that much of a thought into them. Catch up for more on this information on my YouTube channel, that is Alexander Himes. Also check out Alexander Himes on Facebook to get more live stream videos, a lot more content covering the shows. Have a great weekend and happy fall break for everyone at Transylvania University.